Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of TTM Talks. We talk all things F1 and TTM. Joining me this week, as always, we have the lovely TTM Brenda
Hello.
and TTM Billy, who's currently eating his dinner.
Hi there.
And this week we're going to be talking about Tier 2, a bit about their season, doing a bit of a season review, like we did with Tier 1 the other week. But this week we're going to have three special guests on, and sort of do like an interview style thing with them, and basically get their perspective from the season, how it went for them, some of the highs, some of the lows, and then sort of what they're looking forward to from Season 2. But before we get into that, we've got to have our usual little ramble, covering F1 news. Obviously not a lot of F1 news is going on, and linked to that is still no Hamilton news. Do we think this is more leaning towards Hamilton not signing, or is it just there's no news yet and he is still signing?
Yeah, it's interesting because it was either, I think it was today or yesterday, they released their livery that they're gonna be, well, they haven't released their livery, but they've released a date that they're gonna be unveiling it, which is the 2nd of March, I believe. So they also have clarified that there will be two drivers at the unveiling of the livery. So we have a month where we're going to be waiting to find out. At least, we now have an idea of how long it's going to be before we at least get the news.
Yeah, I did read an article actually just after last week. Or I believe I opened it during the very end of the podcast last week, with into a sort of a quotation from Toto Wolff. It was shared on the official F1 Facebook sources, um, saying that he hopes to have it signed ready for the first race in Bahrain. Basically saying that it's just now back and forth between sort of like contract lawyers and stuff like that, just getting everything ready to be signed. But so if it's almost confirmed from the sounds of what he said, it seems to take that seems to be a very long time just to have the contract written. So unless there's something underneath still being decided, they're not disclosing. It does seem odd.
Yeah, it's very weird. Obviously, even before we started the 2020 season, Ferrari had already announced that Seb wasn't racing for them, and yet here we have one of the best F1 drivers, arguably at this time of all time, last year's world champion, who's still not signed. And I think I feel like he will sign, but it's very strange that he's not signed yet.
Yeah, I think it's to do with the sort of the pay cap they've introduced. Obviously, Hamilton is a very wealthy man. I mean, this is just rumors that that he's asking for quite a lot of money. Mercedes are saying no, basically,
Yeah,
and George Russell, with George Russell sat on the sidelines, who proved he could win races in a Mercedes. I think that really got in the way of Hamilton. That's something that he really didn't need. George Russell stepping into that car basically showed everyone that um, Russell could do the same thing as Hamilton, and it's sort of taken away Hamilton's leverage with his contract, saying, like I'm the best driver on the grid. Why would you not want to sign? Where now Mercedes are able to say, well, if we don't, come to a decision with you, we can put George in the car. We can buy him up from Williams and give him a contract that is going to be cheaper than paying to have Lewis in the car.
yeah. I keep hearing things that it's like, oh, it stays away, but this has been going on for weeks now. I imagine how mental it would be if they don't announce it by the time the car's revealed, and George Russell just rocks up there, and it's like, yeah, we got a new driver. That'd be pretty mental. But it's just very.
I would love to see that.
That would be quite a cool way to announce the change.
Yeah, but we'll just have to wait and see. As you said, I think 2nd of March, so just a month away, which will soon come here. But another team that's going to reveal their car.
Is that
Oh, yeah.
sorry? Is that the latest date of a reveal? I know Alpha, I think, was the first to announce it, and theirs was on the 22nd. Alpha Romeo, that is, not Tauri,
I
is on the
think
22nd. Has Mercedes got the latest revealed date of all the teams?
I don't think so. I
I
think
think so.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ferrari are unveiling that winter testing, which won't be till after or sometime in March. I can't remember the
Oh,
exact
okay.
dates of winter testing, but I'm pretty sure they said they're gonna reveal it at winter testing.
Okay.
But along that line with
I think the Mercedes are the latest so far. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
along
Yeah.
that
Okay.
sort of news of cars being revealed, we had the McLaren fire up the other day, and them announcing that they're going to reveal the car on the 15th. How do we think McLaren are going to do this year? Obviously, they had a brilliant 2020, getting to third in the constructors. They've got Ricciardo moving in. They've got the Mercedes engine. Do you think they can break into that top three or top two as it is now?
I'm going to say that they're going to win the championship.
Is that
It's
hopeful
hopeful.
thinking?
That's just a hopeful. My two favourite drivers are there, so I got to go with that. Yeah. So I think they're going to win the championship this year. Why not?
I mean, I don't know. To be quite honest, I don't. I think when you say are they going to break into that top three, I think they already have. They were very strong, and their main sort of competition, I think, was Racing Point or Aston Martin as it is now. But I think with the Mercedes engine, obviously with a sort of uh, history with the Mercedes engines, um, I think they're going to do quite well. I think they're going to be quite a strong challenge. I think they're going to be Red Bull pace. I don't think they're going to quite make it to Mercedes yet because obviously it's their first year with the new engine. They've got a lot to figure out with it. Um, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think they're going to be top three and challenging Red Bull.
Yeah, I think they're because at the moment they obviously got top of the midfield last season, um, but obviously it was very close with Racing Point. Obviously they got I think 18 points taken away from them for their breaks at the start of the season, and Renault at times had the pace to be up there as well. So I feel like they're going to be in this weird position where Mercedes and Red Bull are going to be fighting for the championship. They'll be quicker than everyone else, but slower than the top two teams, and then you'll have the gap back to the rest of the midfield. But yeah, fingers crossed. They've been making the progress in the right direction. So you never know. And obviously, we're going to touch on this in a future podcast, but there's some rule changes that are coming in as well, which could throw a bit of an unknown in. But interestingly, talking about Aston Martin.
Yeah, their progression.
Yeah, sorry. What were you saying?
Sorry. Yeah, the progression over the last three seasons has been incredible, really. Since they lost Alonso and then changed their driver lineup completely. I think since that's happened, they've been a completely different team.
Yeah, I know they've had like a restriction at the top with Andreas Seidel coming in. They got what's his name, James Key, I think. He used to be from AlphaTauri in his I can't remember his exact role, but yeah, they changed it up to the top. So hopefully, they can keep building on this success that they're having, and who knows? Obviously, we've got the rule shake-up next year. Hopefully, they can capitalise on that. It might even hinder them a little bit because obviously there's a new. What's the word for it? What am I looking for? Wind tunnel time. Like based on performance. There's probably a better word for it. But being so far up now in third, they're obviously going to have less time than say Ferrari, who are in sixth. So that could actually maybe hinder them a little bit. Well, I know this whole who gets what amount of wind tunnel time. It's basically to kind of even performance out. But yeah, it could potentially hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I do agree with that.
Because I know now um, Ferrari doing so poorly last season has kind of not necessarily helped them for this season and next season, but with them getting more wind tunnel time, I think they get to. There's something else that they get to do as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It might help them bounce back for 2022. But we touched a little bit on Aston Martin as well. I was watching a video the other day, and it was about their new title sponsor. What's it called? Cognizant. Obviously, dropping the BWT, who were Racing Point's title sponsor, which obviously gave the classic pink car, the Pink Panthers, and it was talking about liveries, and obviously Aston Martin is that dark green and sort of lime green that we see in quite a few other racing series. And then I didn't know Cognizant's like brand colour was actually dark blue. So the video I was watching was suggesting that they might go back for a Jordan 191, sort of that 7-Up livery. Do you think bringing that retro sort of livery would be a good idea?
Yeah.
Oh, you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I think, although it is quite I'd say, familiar look on the grid, because the pink has been there for quite a few years now. It'll be nice to see something a little bit different. Obviously, we saw Mercedes do something a bit different this year, and sort of a few other teams changed liveries. Williams obviously changed it deeper into the season due to sort of sponsors dropping and stuff like that. So I think it'd be quite nice to see a change on the grid.
Yeah, we've obviously got Alpine
I
changing as
think,
well, or Renault changing to Alpine.
Oh yeah, yeah, another one.
yeah, the Aston Martin livery, I think is going to be quite interesting. Obviously, it's not like a Red Bull livery where it like changes a little bit. It's going to be a whole new car, which is going to be really interesting to see. And as you say about the blue, I think that's going to be incorporated, and a livery that would sort of um that would look like the Jordan would be quite cool, I think, if they were able to sort of um add that kind of design into it. It would be difficult to do, but if they were able to do it, I think it'd be pretty cool looking car.
Yeah, because it's important
Obviously, you see these things around people like doing these designs like that they make themselves, and they do look cool, like the old liveries and stuff on the new cars. So I think, yeah, that would be a pretty cool idea.
yeah, it's important to note as well that the Aston Martin have obviously taken over Racing Point's um, Silverstone workspace. I'm trying to think what the word is. God, my head's really not working tonight. But basically where they build the cars, and that obviously
HQ.
HQ, yeah, headquarters, yeah. And that obviously was Racing Points, then was Force Indies before that, and then I think that it was like Spikers, Midlands, but at some point it was actually Jordan's headquarters where they built the cars. So it'd be a nice little throwback to where the team have been originally to where they are now in this new era. And also, I know.
Yeah, I mean that'd be. I think um I think we're struggling with a little bit of lag here, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, there is a slight delay.
Um, I didn't know that they were actually like dated all the way back to those headquarters. So if they could sort of pay homage, I guess, to that, to the old team and that livery. Um, Obviously it was the first team that Schumacher started out in. And obviously now we got Mick on the grid as well. So it could go together quite well.
yeah. I think it's going to be a good livery either way. And speaking of liveries, I think it happened a couple of weeks ago, but we got the Alpine winter livery. What did you guys see that? What do you think of it? Obviously, it's not the livery that they're going to be racing
Yeah,
full time.
yeah, I did like it. Yeah,
I think,
sorry. Yeah, I did quite like it. I liked the change it would bring to the grid. Obviously, I know that's their winter livery, so like I say, might not, probably won't stick with it and go through with it. But I did like how it looked. To be fair.
yeah, obviously the black part of it was very reminiscent of Renault's testing livery from last season, and I think having a blue car on the grid, because obviously with the Red Bull's sort of blue, but it's like a dark navy, almost black. I don't think there's any other blue cars on the grid. I know Williams has got a bit in there, but like having a whole blue car, I think would be pretty cool. And like Brenda was saying, with people making their own liveries and stuff, they've done like chromed out blue, which looks really nice. So I think that's going to be another good livery as well. And our final bit of news, which only dropped yesterday, I believe, is I'm probably going to butcher his name. Juan Manuel Correa is going back to F3. And for those of you who don't know who he is, there was an incident at Belgium in 2019 in the F2 race, which unfortunately saw Antoine Hubert lose his life. And Correa was involved in that incident. It happened at the top of Eau Rouge. A really unfortunate incident, but basically Correa's was injured after that crash, but is now finally back to the stage where he's ready to step back in a race car and is going back to F3. So I'm so pleased that he's back to full health. Obviously, a very sad time in Belgium, but for him to bounce back now, I think it's obviously hampered his career. I've only started following F2 sort of last year, so I don't know if he was one of those standout drivers, but hopefully he can have a good season back in F3.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It'd be nice to see a driver that goes through something as traumatic and obviously big as that still be able to then get back in the car and perform like they were doing previously.
Yeah, because it's a bit like Billy Monger as well. Obviously, it's a lot different because Correa's injuries weren't quite as severe as Billy's were. And obviously, I've seen
Who's?
Billy Monger. He was
Oh, yeah, sorry.
yeah. If you don't know, he was
Yeah,
doing
obviously,
a
yeah, he lost his legs, didn't he?
F4 race around Donington. I can't remember exactly what race it was, but he basically had a really nasty crash and lost both of his legs. But he's back in racing now as well. He has a specialised steering wheel that. Oh no, actually, I think on his steering wheel he's got like acceleration and like can change his gears and stuff. And then I think with one of his legs he can do braking. So it's obviously good that he's back as well.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully Correa can have a successful season back in F3. I think that's everything.
Yeah,
All the
it'd be
news.
nice to see.
Yeah, I think that's all the news we've really got this week. Anyone want to add anything else before we move on to the main topic?
No, nothing from me.
No, all good.
Alright, so now we're going to discuss the main topic of today's podcast, which is a look back at the Tier 2 season, obviously finishing at the same time as the Tier 1. We did the Tier 1 a few weeks ago, now we're going to look at the Tier 2. But we're going to be doing it a bit differently this time. Last time we had tens on and we kind of went through the whole season. This week, we're going to have 3 different guests on and kind of talk about their season. And our first guest this week is none other than M Still, who
Good evening.
some of you might know used to commentate on Tier 1 races. He's got his own streaming channel that he streams on, and he's been racing in Tier 2 this season. So let's start off with just like a general overview. How did your season go? I know we talked about it the other day that you actually transitioned from pad to wheel sort of early on. How did that transition go for you?
That wasn't too bad. I probably picked the worst track in the world to try and do it, which was my last pad race was Vietnam, and then my first wheel race was China, which was a bit tricky. Took a lot of sweating on the game to try and get used to the throttle application instead of just planting your finger into your hand and you can just go. But overall, I think it went all right. To be fair, I got some good results later in the season. Some bad results as well, but
Yeah.
I think overall it was all right.
Have you ever done league racing before this, or is this like your first experience of it?
No. TTM took my virginity.
Did you enjoy the season on a whole?
Oh yeah, overall, yeah, I loved it. Some great battles at various tracks and that throughout the season, and some great moves, some brave moves. And I learned a lot.
Because I know for me,
was good.
For me personally, I used to race a lot of like career mode and stuff in single player. I did a little bit of league racing before, but ever since joining TTM, sort of league racing's taken the major spotlight for me. But yeah, as you were saying with the wheel, it's so difficult to get used to throttle application. It's such a steep learning curve, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. You're in the same boat as me now, aren't you?
Yeah. Which, you know, I'd hope, well, I want it to go quicker and me to get faster quicker, but we're just going to have to wait for that day to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let's start off with looking at some of the highs. So you said, wait, if I just get it up right. Yeah, you said it was a bad or a difficult track to transition to at China, but you ended up getting 5th, which was quite a decent result. How did that China race go for you?
All right, to be honest, I'll be quite honest. I don't really remember much of China. I know I managed to keep my nose clean. I think I just played the long game, which was just a tactic I tried to use in quite a few races. It paid off in one or two. But I do remember being super, super nervous for it. I remember in the pre-race brief I said to everyone, listen, if I'm slow or I catch you or something like that, I apologise in advance. I was really scared of absolutely just ruining someone else's night. I think that's probably what did me the favour, to be honest, because in the races where I was scared of crashing and taking someone out, which was mainly China, Monaco and Azerbaijan, because obviously them two the walls are so close. I did pretty well at. So yeah, I think it was just the fact that I was just being super cautious, tried to pick my battles well. And obviously I watch a lot of IRL F1 as well, so I know a lot of where the overtaking places are and aren't, when to buy my time and when not to.
Yeah,
I think that helped.
How have you found wet racing with the wheel as well? Because that's vastly different. Yeah,
hate it. But we just done. I know obviously we're doing the mini series now, but we did the mini series at Great Britain, and I had a really good strategy come out the pits on my enters in P2, and within 4 or 5 laps I was P10. I just struggled so much. Luckily in Tier 2 we didn't really see that much rain throughout the season. I think it was only a couple of races we had rain, 2 or 3 maybe. And it was usually towards the end. I don't think we had a full race of it, if I remember rightly, but so I didn't really get much experience with it, thankfully. Hopefully I don't get much more next season either, because it's not fun.
Oh, I've just remembered as well. We didn't do the introductory question, so we're just gonna hop back a little bit.
No problem.
I've forgotten to think of a scenario this week, but just sort of tell people watching who your sort of favourite driver of all time is, and what your favourite track is of all time, whether it's to drive or to watch, or if you've got a particularly great memory from one.
I think my favourite driver is probably splitting people apart. I didn't really start watching Formula 1 until probably about 2004, 2005. I'd seen snippets when I was a kid. My dad's massively into it, so I remember Damon Hill winning the championship in '96. I remember Häkkinen's back-to-back before Schumacher's dominance took over. But I really wasn't sort of that much into it at that stage when they were about. The drive that really got me into it was Hamilton, because I know some people will be like head in their hands, oh, he's another Lewis fanboy, but his driving style at the time, 2007, 2008, 2009, was so aggressive, but it was done in the right way. We saw Max Verstappen coming with that same level of aggression, but he didn't have the right way to do it in these early days, where I think Lewis did, which proved his point, nearly winning the championship in 2007. I think it was, 1 point he lost it by?
Yeah.
And then winning it the following year. I don't think a Brookie had ever done that before since the very early days. I don't think anyone will ever do that again.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's gone on to dominate now.
Are you still a fan of him now when he's dominating?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because as much as it does get a little bit boring that it's the same two or three cars at the front. It's usually Max, Valtteri, and Lewis on the podium in a variation of order. I've learned to love the sport for the sport and not just for who's winning. So when it is the scenarios where those guys are just in the distance, I'll just sit back and watch the midfield battles, like Perez and Lando and Danny Rick and that fighting it out, Charles Leclerc. I'll watch them as well, which is always really exciting. But I still do love to see Lewis winning. I think I think him and Alonso are very similar characters, and you give them that car and they will extract the maximum plus another 100%.
Yeah.
They'll just drive the stones off the car, and they make it look effortless.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'm kind of the same as well. My parents were into F1, and I didn't really care about. I remember I kind of got into it in like 2007, 2008. I think even 2009. Because obviously Lewis being British, you kind of automatically root for him, especially because he's a rookie and he's doing so well. And then my mum is a massive Jensen fan, so obviously 2009 was good. But I always used to like watch the first few laps and then watch the end because I was a kid.
Yeah, that's what I used to do when I was a kid. See if
I
anyone crashed and then go upstairs.
Yeah, I just didn't have the attention span to do it. But yeah, although I'm not so much of a fan of Hamilton now, I respect how good he is. But I think in a way, I'm a bit like you. I enjoy the sport, but I'd also like the sport to be. I like the midfield at the front because I do think it would be more exciting to see that midfield battle for the win. But there's nothing you can do about it until 2022.
We saw that a couple of times this season when Mercedes made mistakes. Imola, was it Imola when Hamilton went in the pits when it was closed?
Monza, yeah. Monza.
Imola, Monza, yeah. And Mugello as well, where that was just a chaotic race from start to finish, and that showed how good the sport can be. Hopefully, when the new regs come in and everyone is closer, I think that was a nice little preview.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. We get
definitely.
We get side by side racing every lap. No, that's not gonna happen. But what's your favourite track?
Belgium. Spa-Francorchamps. Yeah, that's a driver's track. I know a lot of people love Suzuka. I'm not really a fan of Suzuka because of the S's. I know that's what a lot of people love. But I just love everything about Belgium. Eau Rouge, even the breaking into at the end of the Kemmel Straight and that little right, left, right. And then you've got Pouhon. It's probably the best named corner ever. And then you still got some fast corners around the back, and then you got Blanchimont at the bus stop chicane right at the end just to throw a spanner in the works. I just love it. I love driving it on the game, and I love watching him, especially a few years ago when Max went round the outside of, I can't remember who it was, but when he went round the outside at Blanchimont, and you're just thinking, oh my god, that's it's tracks like that bring out the guys with the big balls.
Yeah,
Just flat out all the way around.
Spa is one of those very old school tracks, and it's one of those like core. I can't remember core 5 or 6 tracks that have pretty much always been on the calendar. So I think it's fair enough. I think a lot of people enjoy Spa. I know I do. P1 especially in these modern cars is just phenomenal.
It's just it's just a slight lift now.
Yeah, it's crazy how much speed you can carry
insane.
through there.
It's insane.
But now moving back to the season 2 or season tier 2 review even. You mentioned briefly before at Baku you took it a bit easier, and it ended up warranting a brilliant result.
Yeah, there's a bit of luck. I've done a lot of practice for that race. As I said, I don't like the street circuits. Well, when I say the street circuit, I don't like Monaco. I hate Monaco, and I'm not the biggest fan of Azerbaijan. So I knew I just needed to take it really super cautious. I played a long game with a strategy there. I don't think I had the best of qualifyings for that round, again, because I was just super cautious. I found myself P3, I think, with a couple of laps to go. And then Jerry span with one of his rare mistakes on the exit of turn 1, which opened the door for me to move up into P2. And then Chizu and Shifty were battling like crazy behind me for 3rd and 4th after Jerry had span. So there was no pressure from behind. So Ace Watch just disappeared down the road. I just had to make sure I just keep it out the walls and just deliver it. Just luckily enough, I managed to keep the composure and get a P2.
Yeah, I mean, you say luck, but a lot of the time there's the saying that you make your own luck. Already being up in that decent position, obviously making the most of other people's mistakes. Another race that I highlighted that was pretty good for you was at your favourite track at Belgium. Scoring some decent points there. Was that an action-packed race, or was it more of a...
I think for me that was more of just a bit of a boring race. I don't remember that track being particularly exciting. I know I could have got more points. I span out under the safety car on the safety car restart coming out the bus stop chicane. I just planted it a little bit too early and went round and round, and that threw me back a little bit. But I think I managed to claw that back through strategy then. So there could have been a few more points on the cards, but it was pretty straightforward. Keep the nose clean, pick your fights, and sort of crack on.
Yeah, so obviously you had a couple of good races obviously throughout your season, but also with a couple of good races you also get a few bad ones. I've just I've been looking at the standings a little bit, and I don't mean to like make you feel bad, but like obviously the last couple of races, no points, and I know especially Abu Dhabi you were very annoyed about.
Mate.
But do you want to talk about some of the lows?
Well, I'll go through because I've got the calendar up myself just to help remind. So, like, Australia was a DNF. That one, I think, that was just a bit of naivety because it was my first league race. I qualified into 5th, got a great start. I was P2. I was up into 2nd on the exit of turn 2, and then there was a safety car. And I was all over the back of Shifty all the way through the first lap after the safety car restart, and then that really fast left-right. I ran a little bit wide on the right, got up on the curb, and I opened up the ERS just a fraction too early. And on Rich Mix, it just spammed me straight round into the wall, and that was game over.
Yeah, it's easily done.
Bahrain was... Yeah, we saw plenty do it through the tiers. Bahrain was a really, really good race, but I ended up in a DNF. I know it's not classified as one because it was the last lap, last corner. That hurt. That hurt a lot. And then I had a few races where there was just no points, and then it was really from Japan onwards. I just had an absolute nightmare. I seemed to start attracting trouble on the racetrack. Either coming together with Alfie at 130R Japan, that killed my race, and then obviously that put me straight into the wall on the outside. And then at USA, I had contact with Stevie JD at the end of the first sector. That put me in the wall. Got away with it to a degree. I only lost a front wing. But that was a lap 1 incident that at the end of lap 1, start lap 2, I was 55 seconds behind the guy in front of me, and I was last. Mexico, I'm just not even going to mention Mexico. That was just embarrassing. Brazil was an alright race, just no pace. And then Abu Dhabi, I wanted to cry after that. That didn't hurt so much as Bahrain. It was more just sheer frustration. Because I'd really struggled with setup, and I found a setup I liked. And then on a corner, I'd probably done the equivalent of about 6 or 7 Grand Prix distances of practice for that race, because I really, really struggled with it. And then on the last left-hander of the corner, I'd never lost it in any of the practice I'd done. I lost a back end and went straight into the wall. And I threw my headset across the room and went for a lie down.
I can imagine the frustration, to be fair. I know I put in, like you said about the practice, you put in so much practice for a race, and then it comes up meaning nothing. Baku was my one. I put in a couple of days of practice to get myself fast enough, and binned it on the first lap. So I know how you feel, definitely. And sometimes you do get those streaks where you just can't really not like pick up any points, but you don't really have the pace. And it's nothing that you're doing, it's just sort of, I think it's a psychological thing where you get one bad race which then affects you for the next one and then the next one. But hopefully sort of a little break from it, and obviously the mini series is not as serious. I mean, I know Jerry is encouraging people to sort of turn off any assists that they wouldn't usually. So hopefully, like a little break can help you out with that, and you can have a strong season 2.
Yeah, I'm open. So I mean, I think I still, other than the fact my pace in the wet at Britain was poor in the mini series, I still think I had a very good race. You know, there's a lot of people crashing out. I think I had 6, 7 DNFs in total. Obviously, I think I had about 6 or 7 DNFs in the total last season. So I was just happy to sort of break that run. I think I finished P9, I think, in the end in that one. So that was, it was still decent points on the board considering. I know it doesn't really mean much, but it was just important for me to break that run of. I didn't score any points after Singapore, so I went Russia, Japan, USA, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi with no points. And I only finished 3 out of the last 6 races, so it's just important for me to get back in the groove, get a finish, points if possible, and then start to push on again.
Yeah,
exactly.
I totally get that. Like, at the moment, obviously I've only recently just transferred to Whittle, but in the last 3 league races I've had 3 no points, and it would be nice. I get where you're coming from. I'm looking to try and break that cycle. I think once you do, it kind of helps, and you can start getting on a sort of momentum gain, if you will. But now looking throughout the whole season, what was your best race? Do you think? Do you think it can be Baku because of the good result, or somewhere else if you had good battling all the way through?
I was thinking about this earlier. Baku definitely in terms of result. P2 Even if you look at the standings and the results before my horrific run at the end, as midfield driver all the way through. So Baku to grab the podium there, take advantage of other people's mistakes and capitalise was really, really good. But my favourite race of the season, even though it was ended in a sort of not technically a DNF, was Bahrain, because me and Jerry just slogged it out for the last 5 laps of the race, and it was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. We pushed each other to the limit. There was a couple of times where we were close to forcing one another off the track. But we kept it respectful. There's a couple of touches here and there when the car in front got a snap of oversteer, which you can't always help, but it was really, really good fun. So even though that race ended badly for me, I still enjoyed it. I'd say that's my favourite race.
Yeah, some little love taps never hurt.
No. Treating mean to keep him keen, isn't it? Yeah, that was definitely my favourite one, Bahrain.
Okay, and the next question: what is probably your favourite aspect that you're looking forward to in season 2? Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that you're in tier 3 along with me for next season. So obviously there'll be a few new drivers in there that you haven't raced before, which might change up the grids a bit in people's driving styles. So what are you most looking forward to for
that? I'm looking forward to a few new battles. Getting stuck in with a few. Hopefully try and seeing as quite a few of the quicker drivers have either stayed in tier 2 or been bumped up to tier 1. Obviously, no disrespect to anyone in tier 3, pace wise. I think it's going to be a lot more even, which I think was the idea behind it all.
yeah.
I'm hoping for better points scoring and a lot more close battles. Because there's a few races where you just end up in the middle of no man's land if you've not quite got the absolute pace of the rest of the gang, in front of you. You could also have a few lads behind you that are really struggling, and you just end up with quiet races. But I think the way that the tiers have been done this season, it's going to be close all the way through in all of them. I'm really looking forward to the full quali as well.
Yeah, that's definitely an aspect that I'm looking forward to.
Because one of the things I struggled with certainly early on was trying to find that gap in that 20-minute window to get that absolute corker in. To try and get your best lap in. With so many cars also on the track trying to do the same thing. I think
how did you find the mini series last week? Obviously, I don't know if you did take much notice, but on the final lap of the race, I'd taken the gap that I had down to you to literally on your bumper, and then lost it coming out of the second to last corner.
I did see that. Yeah,
I wasn't happy, if I'll be honest.
I'm not gonna lie. There was a bit of a smile on my face when you went, because I could feel the pressure. I just had a load of pressure off Carl Duncan at the end of that race as well, and then he'd run in the back of me and damaged his wing and fell off pace wise. And then I thought, oh, great, and I've got a minute, and then you appeared. I was like, oh, for God's sake, because I was struggling enough as it is, and I really didn't want to make a mistake and take you or Carl out. And but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, I made a mistake in qualifying. I forgot that the race was wet. So for Q2, I went out on a set of mediums, didn't appropriately adjust my driving style through turn 1 and did a Vettel, just span it straight round and unfortunately hit the wall. Okay. But I did enjoy it. I put in a really good lap to get through Q1, and I was happy with that. And I thought, great, that's a good lap. And I think I was just excited that I got through Q1. I didn't really think about what was going to happen next. I started thinking about the race, but what I didn't comprehend was the weather. So I caught myself up a little bit there. But no, I enjoy it. Because you can find that one lap. You don't have to do an absolute perfect lap in Q1 to get through. Because there's so many people on track. There's a lot of unintentional blocking happens. Unintentional blocking. Or you can try your best to get yourself a gap, and then someone comes out of the pits, and then you end up, with a bit of dirty earth for a couple of corners, and it just knocks a couple of tenths off and that. So I think as
Yeah,
we get
definitely.
through, it's going to be a lot easier and it's going to be a lot better. Because there's a few of the tracks, I think it was 4 or 5 tracks in season 1. I had issues
Yeah.
with the drivers blocking.
Tracks like Monaco, definitely you'll feel the advantage of this, of the
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely, yeah.
the numbers dropping.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, I had quality issues in the first 2 races. I got blocked by the same driver on both the first 2 races. I don't think it was anywhere intentional. I just think it was early season, not really paying attention. But it ruined 2 laps quite early on as well. So there's still a lot of potential for improvement throughout the lap. But like I said, I think with the full quality, it'll get better.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's all the questions we had for you. Is there anything else you wanted to add on to this little mini interview?
No, I'm trying to avoid a particular track getting talked about, so now I'm going to keep the gob shut.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem, gents.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for the offer.
And we look forward to seeing what you can do what you can do in season 2. Hopefully get some more good results. A few more podiums would be nice.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, just
Don't get me excited now.
best of luck for season 2.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
And now we move on to our second guest of this week's podcast, Mr. SDC. Obviously, quite a prominent driver in Tier 2, coming in second place overall. Very, very quick, having picked up a couple wins, a lot of podiums, being part of the esports team. So, obviously, a very quick driver. Before we get right into it, I forgot to come up with a introduction thing this week. But firstly, who is your favourite driver of all time? And secondly, what is your favourite track of all time?
Favorite driver would probably have to be Ayrton Senna. I mean, I've just since I started watching Formula 1, I used to watch old races of him, particularly Monaco ones, where he gets so close to the walls. Just love the way he drove and everything. And favorite track of all time would have to be probably Monaco, actually, just because of the drivers are always on the limit within centimeters of walls all the time. It's great to watch, really.
Oh no, we got another Monaco lover. No, but
And a Senna.
yeah, Senna's fine. Senna's fine. I've not got a problem with Senna, but Monaco. Ugh.
Oh no, neither do I.
It's Monaco you don't like, is it?
Yeah. Hashtag the paddock's better. But yeah, so I've talked a little bit about how the overall season went. Why don't you talk us through a bit more in detail, some of the highs, lows, and what you sort of thought of the season? Because have you done league racing before?
No, actually, this was the first full season I'd done in a league. Obviously, I'd done the mini season back on F1 2019 and TTM, but this was the first full season. So, I mean, coming into the season, I said if I could finish in the top 3 in the season, that would be pretty much a win for me. And
you absolutely smashed it. Yeah, because I know Brinda and Billy, this was their first proper league that they've ever done. So it's quite interesting to see. How did you find that overall experience? Because I know TTM it's more of a community than some other leagues, but did you enjoy the whole league experience?
Yeah, very much. I mean, racing the same people each week, you get to know them, build friendships, all that kind of thing, and mostly you'll be racing the same kind of people on track, so you're having the same battle continuing throughout the whole season. So it's much better than just open lobbies, anything like that.
Yeah, you can kind of get that respect between drivers, can't you? So let's start off with looking at some of the highs. Now, I have noted down Singapore and Russia, and Singapore especially, because you are such a quick driver, but it's just unfortunate that, races didn't go together. You've also got Jerry in this league, who we're going to have on in a little bit, who's ridiculously quick. And obviously the podiums are great, but getting that first win, how did that feel?
That was amazing, really, because it took a long time to come. I think it was Singapore's 16th round, 15th round, something like that. So, I mean, people had told me I could win a race. I didn't always believe it because, I mean, we were more than halfway through the season by then. So to get the first win it was amazing, to be honest. And it's a pretty strange race as well. From dry qualies, the race started wet, the race went dry, back to wet at the end. It was a bit of a funny race, all right. But I was very happy to get the win there. And I mean, Jerry's pace at Singapore was very strong as well in both conditions. I think there was something happened with the game. He got some kind of glitch at the end, which gave me a 4-second gap or something on the last safety car with just 5 laps to go. So meant all I had to do was bring it home. But yeah, that was probably the biggest highlight of the season for me anyway.
Yeah, well, you said before that Ayrton was or is like your favourite driver of all time, and obviously he was a master in the wet conditions. Do you enjoy the wet conditions as well?
Well, I do sometimes if it goes my way, I suppose.
Depends what track it is.
Pretty much, yeah. Depends how bad the rain is as well. I mean, I quite like Inter's conditions. I feel the track's always kind of changing. I like adjusting to the track and like that. But I mean, when we had Britain in the esports and it was thunderstorm style conditions, it's not what I like really.
So we've obviously mentioned as well that it took quite a few races to get your first win. Talk us through sort of like the first half of the season. How did that go? Because obviously, I know, especially if you're new to league racing or if you're starting in a new league, the first few races can be quite, I don't want to say, well, sort of nervous. You're quite tentative, not wanting to make any mistakes or crashes. How did that go for you?
No, well, I probably had the worst start you could imagine to a season in Australia. I was doing okay, kind of. I was in the points, and I think this was back when they changed kind of the VSC where you couldn't go over the delta. I remember in the last game you could kind of go over it, get away with it. On this one you couldn't, so I got a drive-through penalty. Then a safety car came out, and game wouldn't let me serve the penalty, so I got disqualified from the first race. So that was probably the worst start of I could have imagined. But after that, I kind of in Bahrain settled into the season a bit. I think I got the P2 finish. I was up there with, I think I was finished with a 2 tenths behind Viper. So that was a good bounce back race, I suppose you could call it. But I mean, it was a bit of a shaky start to the season. I was just scoring 5th place, 4th place around there because I just turned off the traction control. I was getting used to all that kind of stuff, so I was just kind of settling in with all that. But once I got into the rhythm, I suppose in the races, I could keep up around the pace I'd like to be at there. So it was a pretty good start to the season.
Yeah, obviously, I feel like you and I are a bit similar, DC, in the fact that, I turned off traction control towards the end of Tier 1 season as well. And by the sounds of it, you and I have had some unlucky moments in both of our seasons. Can you talk us through some of those sort of low points? Like, did you feel like you were losing out quite big?
Well, I suppose the worst, it probably wasn't my worst race, but it was probably the worst part of the season for it to come was Japan. I was coming off the back of 2 wins, and I had a bit of an incident after a safety car restart, which gave me red wing, so I had to pit there. That was probably the lowest moment of the season because I lost. I was up there fighting for the win to drop back to 12th place or something, 10th place around there. So that was probably the worst race at the worst time of the season. But I suppose the worst race overall was probably Italy. That was the lowest points I scored all season in a race. So I think that was weird conditions as well. Kind of it was like slick tires on a wet track, and then switching to inters, switching back to slick tires, very weird conditions. But yeah, not the highest moment of the season. Probably the worst race.
Yeah, unfortunately, you do get races like those where you can be doing so well and then it all just goes wrong. I remember particularly Spain in Tier 1. I know we touched on it when we were talking about Tier 1, but I pretty much had the race, or I had the race win in my grasp, but right at the end, just got it taken away from me by two people who shall remain nameless. Um, but yeah, I definitely know how you feel with instances like that. Um, I had, I think, the mini series when we were at Austria. I got a drive-through under a safety car, which I'm pretty sure you were racing in as well.
Yeah, I think I might have been alright.
And yeah, it is just a shame, but I mean, you do have those low points, but you did a really good job to come back, and you know, you got a couple of wins and multiple podiums to take second in the standings. So really good job, to be fair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cheers.
yeah. One of those wins that I'll ask about is how Russia went for you.
Russia was probably the smoothest race of the season for me. I mean, qualifying went perfectly. I got pole position, and yeah, couldn't have went any better really. Then the race, we had that not the best start from the tier in general with the safety cars before we got to turn one, but that I mean that meant I couldn't be challenged into turn one after the safety car managed to break the second gap, and it was just managing the race from there, trying to keep the 3-4 second gap to Jerry, but our pace was the very same pretty much throughout the whole race. So that was all that was just trying to bring it home, no penalties, nothing like that, and I managed to do that.
Yeah, it was a good drive.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, and obviously we've touched upon how difficult it must have been to race against Jerry, especially when he's so quick, and he ended up taking the championship. And you were, I noticed in the standings, you're sort of, it's nothing against you, but you're sort of in this like middle ground where you're away behind Jerry, but then quite far in front of third place, which must be quite annoying for you. Sort of like that Max Verstappen can't quite beat the Mercedes, but is quicker than everyone else.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. I mean,
I know
Jerry's
that
just
feeling.
he's really consistent throughout the season, pretty much. Like, well, the biggest example would be in Britain. I was about 2 seconds behind him the whole race, trying to pressure him, catch up, make him get a penalty, but he doesn't crumble under pressure. We've seen that throughout the whole season, pretty much. He just manages every race. His pace is insane, as you say, but yeah, that he's definitely consistently quick every lap, puts in the practice, and it's really paid off from this season.
Yeah, and we'll touch a little bit on esports as well. I mentioned earlier that obviously you're part of the esports team. How did you find that transition? Because I found that the esports racing is very, very different to actually league racing.
Yeah, it's nowhere near. You couldn't compare the two at all, pretty much, because you're on the radio trying to ask about penalties, all that kind of stuff, and you're trying to help everyone you possibly can on the team, whether that's giving them a tow and slips or a tow in qualifying, or just trying to maybe drop back a tenth, give them DRS in the race to protect their position. It's a lot different, more intense, I suppose, because shorter races, every lap counts. There's no room for mistakes or anything.
Do you enjoy the intensity and that sort of like teamwork base more than just being solo in league racing?
Definitely, I much prefer being part of the team. I mean, obviously in tier 2, me and Shifty were always working together, trying to bring on the in communication, trying to bring home the win. And when you do bring home the win, there's that winning feeling throughout the community and the Discord. From everyone's happy that you've won, that kind of thing. So it's definitely esports is definitely my favorite thing to do now.
So just sort of looking back, what do you think your best race was? I know we touched upon obviously Singapore was a good one, Russia was a good one, but it can be your best one because of a particular result, or if you had good battling throughout? What would you say is your best race from last season?
I'd probably say Mexico, to be honest. Me and Cherry were just inseparable in that race. We were making moves every like few laps, one of us getting past the other, going for undercuts, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it didn't end very well. I picked up some damage, which let Jerry get away and take the race win. But it was by far the best race. Just intensity throughout the whole race, always swapping positions. It was just brilliant racing throughout.
Yeah, it's always good when you have that close battle in all the way throughout a race. And I don't know, because me and Brenda had it in Mexico as well. I don't know what about that track sort of brings it out. Maybe the long straight, maybe. But yeah, obviously it's great to have battles, like I said. And just finishing off, because I feel like, not that you've had a boring season, you've had a very exciting season, but when you are, because I wouldn't say you're slower than Jerry, but when Jerry like consistently puts in the performances and he doesn't put a step wrong, it's sometimes a bit I don't know what the word I'm looking for is.
Frustrating. I
Yeah,
suppose.
frustrating. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. But looking on to next season, obviously a big shake up, moving up into the top tier. How do you feel about that, and what are you most looking forward to?
I think it's gonna be a very close season. Pretty much everyone is in or around the same pace, so it's just gonna be DRS trains. I mean, qualifying, the full qualifying as well is gonna be pretty intense because track position at every track is gonna be crucial, really. So it won't be easy to make moves in that league, in that tier, because as I say, everyone is ridiculously quick. I mean, a lot of esports drivers in there as well, so we've a lot of experience racing each other, so we know a lot about each other, where who's like going to be aggressive in defense, all that kind of thing. So it's going to be a very good season to watch and to race in.
Yeah, and also we're going off to, I think we're going off to some of the short circuits as well. How are you looking forward to them? Like, because obviously we race the same 21 circuits all the time. These sort of offer a bit of a mix-up.
Yeah, and it's always nice to have a bit of a change, I suppose, in the league from other leagues, what they're kind of doing. And I mean, I think it's Bahrain Short is the first short track we're going to be doing. So I think, I mean, qualifying again will be extremely close. I mean, I would say the top 10 will be within a tenth of a second right there because it's so short. But yeah, those kind of tracks, they're going to be probably the most intense races, because the race, I'm not sure with a 50% race if they're a bit less laps because it's shorter track, but it'll definitely be the most intense races, which is exactly what you want in the league, really, high intensity racing.
Yeah, and obviously it's not the same as the Sakia track, but having like pretty much a straight corner, hopefully will lead to quite exciting racing as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. The straights, a lot of DRS might lead to, obviously, setups being different, might lead to people going to make brave moves into corners, and definitely some close racing throughout the race.
Yeah, I guess it's on a bit then. What are your expectations for season two? Because obviously you said about how it's going to be really tight, and I think I definitely agree. We have a lot of drivers in that tier that are very close together. But do you think do you think it's gonna be like different race winners every week, or do you think there's gonna be one that sort of is able to beat the rest, or?
Well, I think there'll always be someone who'll prove to be a bit more dominant throughout the season. Who that's going to be, I have no idea. I wouldn't be betting on it because it could be anyone, really. But I mean, for me, next season, top 5 finishes would be very good. When you look at the lineup for that tier, getting a top 5 would be like a win, pretty much. I mean, getting one win in the season would be exactly what I'd want. I mean, personally, I don't think I'll be challenging for a title in that tier at all. There's too many quick drivers that are quicker than me anyway. But just top 5 finishes will be my goal, really.
See, it's interesting you say that as well, because obviously at the moment we're going to be running simulation damage. I don't know if that will change, but if you're, keeping it clean, minding your own business, you could find yourself if you've got, if you're in fourth and first, second, and third are a little bit way up the road and they're battling, you could soon find that they trip over each other and you can take full advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, with the simulation damage, you've no idea what could happen. I mean, if someone gets a bit too brave and goes for a bit of a silly move, that could be their race over, and that's another position gain, which, when you add up all them little mistakes at the end of a championship, they make a massive difference, especially when it's going to be so close. Everyone's going to be very close on points come the end of the championship. So, yeah, just trying to keep it clean, I suppose, could be the difference between coming maybe fourth in the championship or coming third in the championship.
Yeah, I think consistency and, like you say, the simulation damage, it kind of throws it all up in the air. But it should be very exciting to watch. I think that's all the questions we have for you, DC, so thank you very much for coming on. Obviously a very quick driver, very good results in Season 1, and we look forward to seeing what you can do in Season 2.
Yeah, cheers for having me, lads.
Yeah.
And finally this week, another extremely well-known guest. We have TTM Jerry. Those of you in the Discord will know of him. Our Tier 2 champion, ended up having a very dominant season. One of the staff at TTM, used to commentate on Tier 1, now commentates on Tier 3 with myself. As I say, the Tier 3 coordinator. But welcome, Jerry, the Tier 2 champion, to the podcast. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me here today. I really enjoyed these past podcasts, so glad to be a guest here today and talk you a little bit through about my season. I think that's the plan, of course, but yeah, I'm doing all right. Little bit of break between the season 1 and season 2, so enjoying my time preparing for season 2. As most of the guys who are in the Discords probably know, we just released the lineup. And in the background, we're doing all kinds of stuff. You are probably seeing that, Josh, as you also an admin, so you see all the stuff we do. So yeah, working on that at the moment and racing in the mini series. Try to drive with no assist at all, which I was doing in the beginning of the season in Tier 2. Yeah, a little bit of introduction of how I'm doing, but I'm doing really, really great.
Yeah, turning off all those assists is obviously a very difficult thing. Most of us either run with very low assists, but that line especially is difficult to take off. But before we get into your season, let's give the listeners a little story into your favourite things in F1. So, who is your... I mean, I feel like a lot of people could probably guess who your favourite driver is, but who's your favourite driver and what is your favourite track ever?
Well, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I'm an F1 fan for a really long time. And when Lewis Hamilton joined, I'm also a very old guy compared to you guys. So that's probably the reason. I'm 36 years old, so I've been watching F1 quite a while now. And the minute Lewis Hamilton came into the F1, I became a fan of Lewis Hamilton. But as you probably know, Max Verstappen, the Dutch guy, also came in. So yeah, I made a switch. But yeah, that's only because he's Dutch and he's a really competitive and good driver. And yeah, I love to see those two guys, hopefully in the next season, battle each other. So my two favorite drivers on track, fighting for the championship. And probably my most favorite track, I think it's the old German one. I don't know how it's called, but
What, the Nordschleifer?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. It has really long straights with bends in it. No. It's the old uh,
Hockenheim?
Hockenheim.
Hockenheim.
Yeah, yeah, old Hockenheim. It used to have like a really long straight because before you came into the station or the casual section, or how do you call it in English? Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite tracks. And Monaco is always one of my favorites to watch on the telly. So sometimes it's a little bit boring, but yeah, it's just a track that has to be in F1, I think.
Yeah, we had SDC on earlier, and he's a Monaco fan, or a fan of Monaco as well. Which if you like it, you like it. But personally, I can't stand it. But that's just from a pad user's perspective. Um,
Yeah, well, it's a really nice track because of in the real F1 it takes like 200% focus, and in the F1 game as well. So one little mistake, and especially with sim damage on, uh, can cost you. So you sometimes have to choose to be a little bit more careful and lose some pace. And I think the real F1 driver is also doing that. Um, so yeah, every talent you have to use them on Monaco. So I think the big guys always stands out on those tracks. Although
yeah,
you do have always need a good car to drive around there. I reckon it's going to be difficult on a Williams to give it 200% the whole race, but yeah, Monaco, very nice track.
yeah. I've obviously we didn't get it last season. I keep saying this season, last season in real life. Fingers crossed we'll get it this season, because it is. Although it's a track that I don't particularly enjoy, I feel like it is one that needs to be on a calendar. It's something different. Um, but now let's look into your season, Jerry. Obviously, I've kind of didn't get to watch every race, but I've kind of looked over your results, and from the outside, it looked like a very, very dominant season. Picked up 11 wins, 15 podiums, 12 pole positions. How was it generally for you?
Yeah, well, it was a really, really nice season. If you look at the start of it, when you join a league and the TTMotorsports, you do some trials, you win that trial at Austria, and then you get be placed into a tier. And then I, the most thing I remember about tier two is the first race in Australia. I was so fucking nervous. I don't know why, uh, but maybe that's because of the first race in the season. So I gave it my all, and I used to, like I just said, turn had all the assists already off. So I think the Australian, Bahrain, China, Vietnam, up to the first, I think, street circuit, didn't drove with any assist. I don't know why I turned that off, but back again to Australia, yeah, I was really, really nervous. And the thing I can remember there is already see some guys which are probably going to be end up battling in throughout the season with Shifty, SDC, kept me my pipe back then also. Um, but yeah, from there on, I learned from my mistakes pretty much in the very first couple of races. The Australian one was bumping Shifty's back on the virtual safety car. So next races I be cautious on that one. Then next one was Bahrain. I think I started from pole, and Get Me My Pipe was second. Uh, I can also remember that we had a restart of that race, and the first start was really really bad. So my starts weren't good. So that was the next thing I improved on practicing my starts. And after Bahrain, the start was always pretty good. Not as good as Icewatch or any other pad user, but But the thing I learned from Bahrain was to be cautious into turn one and lap one. You don't win a race there, even though if somebody overtake you there. And in China, yeah, I remember the most thing I remember about China is finally facing the famous Brenda. Because when you join the league, you see some of the top guys who are currently in there, and that was Brenda and Josh, and he stepped in as a reserve. So I also make a highlight video of that race, uh, where maybe a little bit overdone, like, okay, last one, Brenda, let's go. And I finally won that race. Yeah, and throughout the season, I learned a lot of things. It's not like I haven't learned anything. I basically learned from every mistake I made. Like in Baku, after the safety car, I turned on the rich mix too fast, on the cold tires, on the hards, lost it. Yeah, most thing I can remember is I might have a dominant season on paper, but I learned quite a lot in terms of league racing, and where as a driver you need to improve. Like I said, distance behind safety car or virtual safety car, warming up your tires properly. You can start from pole, but if you have always bad starts, you have to work on that. Uh, and luckily, we hadn't any rain in the beginning because I was awful at it. So after that, I think it was Azerbaijan or something. I started also practicing in the rain. So basically, my schedule whenever league race comes up is I do like I never changed my setup uh, on uh, on like Sunday. So that's the last time I changed something about my setup. So Monday, Tuesday, I don't change everything. So I basically do like the whole TT thing um, every day, most of the time, like for 40 minutes. Um, After that, I jump into GP mode, um, play around with the fuel, check the strategy, and then after that, I just drive in full wets, intermediates, and then it's probably race day. It sounds a lot if I talk it through now. Holy crap! But I also watch for where is the best moments to put your ERS management on. In which corners is best to put it in lean or in rich or in standard. Um, yeah, that kind of stuff. So yeah, dominant season. I think um, uh, probably most in the first half. Then some guy named SDC came around the corner. I don't know where he found that pace all of a suddenly. I was having a really chill moment the first half of the season. I was talking to my teammates. I'm probably gonna be champion, and like maybe 7 races left or something. And then SDC came along and talked to Tess, and he said, "You finally have a competitor." I really enjoyed that one with the SDC. I think he also improved a lot during that season. So I had actually something to fight for. Not that was nothing to fight for in the first half of the season. Of course, there were other drivers, but SDC really stepped up, and I really enjoyed that one. To give it you everything, like in quali, your final lap doesn't matter if you bin it or not, unless you are in a full quali mode. But that's something different. Don't be Josh.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring up. I didn't bin it. My AI crashed after I'd gone across the line. So good game, Kid Masters.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the fun season to round it up, and the last couple of races. I think the tension was off because you were already champion or almost, and I just went really relaxed in those races. Didn't grab pole or anything. Just drove consistently, and yeah, most of the time. I think the last 4 races I won.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that. 4-win streak. Obviously, quite again looks dominant, but if they're you're in that sort of flow, everything's working for you, the results just come pouring in.
Yeah, I think it's also the mentality thing. Oh, that's my wife grabbing some water. I think it's the also mentality thing. I also do the commentary, of course, with Steel back in the days in Tier 1. And sometimes when we interviewed like Brenda, he was sounding really, I wouldn't say depressed or anything, but he wasn't happy. So with that, if you go with that mentality into the next race, I need to win from Josh. Then it's going to be probably really hard and just go relax. So maybe I learned a little bit from Brenda because of that. Because SDC was at some races much quicker than me on a one lap, uh, and I was just thinking, yeah. Then I come second, still score enough points. If I finish in my first season in the top three, I'm really happy guy. In the end, I grabbed the championship, but. Yeah, I think mentality is also a really important thing. How you go into your races and your preparations, of course. How you approach a race, if you have enough time, of course.
Well, first of all, from me at least, I just want to say that I'm glad that even though I sounded really down and upset in the interviews, that you say that you learnt something off me. So that's my first. That's a proud moment. Um, but yeah, I was just going to ask you. Obviously, you had a dominant season, a bit like someone else in the podcast. But obviously, every race can't be perfect. You do have a few races where things go wrong. Um, and there's a few races, possibly Japan, where things didn't go to plan. Um, were those mistakes, or did you get involved with contact, or what happened with those races?
Yeah, there were a couple of ones. I think you can also. I think Josh also made a video of the lows of me. Yeah, there were a couple of ones. I think Bahrain was one. The turn two incident with Pipe, which threw me back. But then, yeah, it's only two races into the championship, so you don't think about it that much. Probably the most two lowest points, I think, are in Baku and in Japan. Although Baku wasn't really that bad because of all the top runners also DNF'd in there. And Ace Watch won that race. So basically, they won like maybe 2 or 3 points in the standings to me. But Japan was really awful. And that's because of two things. I learned something there in, in terms of when you. Yeah, most of my lows came after a safety car. So there was a Baku safety car. After the safety car restart, I spun it. There was a Belgium one in the intermediates. There was a virtual safety car. Didn't heat up my tires too much. Spin it, lost points. And in Japan, same thing. I was on the hardest tire. Couldn't warm up my tires enough. Uh, and thought, yeah, these guys behind me are on the mediums, probably going to catch me soon. So I need to have a really good first lap pace. Put on the overtake too soon, rich mix, and bin it into the wall, and then hold everybody up in the S section. Uh, Probably the thing I learned there is to lead. After that, the next races when the safety car came out, I just take it cautiously. So keep it in lean mix. Then I'll just lose some time, and if I'm faster on tracks, I will gain that later. That was my thoughts. But at Japan, I also talked about with some people, and next time when that happens, I just stay on the straight and let everybody fly by because not everybody knows when the leader spins and lose some parts of the wing, and they are like after safety car, they don't expect you to be without a wing, so everybody was packing up behind me and bumping into each other. And there was a lot of chaos. But Japan probably my most lowest point in the season. Yeah.
I think obviously with those lows though, there is sort of a positive side to it. As you said earlier on, you learn a lot through the season, and I think the lows is where you sort of learn the most from the races. Um, and that's something sort of positive to take away, I think, from those races. I know myself, especially, I learned so much through tier one and battling with Josh. There was just so much that I learned in that one season, and most of it was from losing. So I think losing isn't necessarily bad. Obviously, winning is good, but when you lose, you learn. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, the thing, sorry for interrupting, but the thing I like the most about league racing is the excitement and battling you do with other people. You can be like way up in front, like maybe 12 seconds or something, and then it's just to be in lonely, going to be in lonely race, you're not learning anything because you're just driving lap after lap after lap.
yeah,
So yeah, I, I can see myself, or I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but I know exactly what you mean. You learn more from your mistakes than but it just driving around on track and being fast. You can better have like skilled players around you and maybe finish in P3, but still the victory is maybe more more how do you say that more of a warm feeling than when you win a race in the tier two. For example, if you look at the next season, season two, and you became third there, it would be a really big achievement for me if you look at the lineup. And even though if I win, I think I would be screaming in the interview. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. The thing I want to, uh, if the listeners want to some advice, not that I want them to make mistakes or anything, but if you make mistakes and you record your races, always watch that footage back so you can learn from it what happened there, and don't be a bitch or a jackass. And that is not always your fault because when there is an incident, two people are involved with it. Probably you done something also you could have been done differently. So yeah.
Yes. So obviously, we just look back at your lows, sort of. Um, but what's one race that you think is was your best race of season one? It could have been, a good result. Obviously, there were many wins to pick from, or it could have been a race where you had a really good battle all the way through. What would you say is, or where was your favourite race or best race?
Can I also pick two or?
Yeah, sure, you can pick two.
Yeah, I think the first best race and enjoyable one was I think Bahrain race. Like I mentioned earlier, I spun off in the first lap in turn one, dropped to the back and still finishing P4th. But I had an amazing battle with Steele, who was running at that point still on the pad, I think. I think our battling was like maybe 3 or 4 laps until the end of the race, and I overtook him at the very fast last lap. So yeah, that was such an enjoyable race that, and I also think that Steele and I after that became somewhat like game friends, or I don't know, because when you battle so much with somebody over so many laps, I think you and Josh, Brenda also have that. You have so much respect for one another on track. When you next time you are going to be racing him or her in the next event. So yeah, it was a really great race, Bahrain. And the second one I think was Mexico with SDC. I think we battled like from lap one until he broke his front wing with Chisu, who was almost at the end of the race. Me and him were like 1.5 seconds, maybe closer the whole race. So I had to be so much on point. Then he overtook me again. I did the undercut to overtake him again. Then he overtook me again, and we both were on a two-stop strategy. So after that, I hitting me, and then we yeah came in some back markers or traffic, and as DC lost his front wing there, and that was also the race I became the champion. So yeah, that was really nice feeling. I was very happy uh, to take that championship at Mexico with an amazing race with as DC in his fullest glory and potential. He was racing and same as me. Uh, yeah, looking forward to race as DC again for next season. Uh, yeah, as we are probably improving both as a driver on the F1 game. But if I must pick one or two, that would be Bahrain with battle with Steel and the other one with SDC on Mexico. Just because of the battling and not so much me winning or something, but most likely the battling and I don't know. Let it know me.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for all that. Yeah, you had a really strong season, well, clearly based on the fact that you won and ended up as tier champion. But moving on to next season, what would you say is what you're looking forward to the most? Obviously, a new format. Obviously, we'll now have full qualifying opposed to a short, so more chances of getting that pole position rather than just someone having an amazing lap. They'll now have to do it 3 times basically to get through. What are you most looking forward to?
Ghosting disabled.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that, if I'm honest.
No, I'm not looking forward to ghosting disabled. Although I do think that. Kun je nog steeds niet vinden? Nee. My wife is looking for something, but she can't find it. Most thing I look forward is just to drive around with, Josh and Brenda mostly. We did, of course, in the esports events, but I don't know, but maybe because I'm a tier lower than them, and you always. I know it's like not skill based those tiers in season one, but you always look uh, up to someone or some more people, and you see like, hey, maybe I can also drive as fast as these guys, and then we had a chance in the esports thing, and you could almost feel like, hey, the pace is so much similar. How would the season would be going when you race these guys? Because in the esports we race as a team, so I tell my engineer, hey, can Josh move out of the way? I think I'm faster, and he does that. But in the next season, in season 2, when Brenda's in front of me, I can ask him to move over, but he probably won't do that and put up a good fight. So, most of the time, looking forward to race the tier 1 guys who became first and second. But that's basically only, I think, maybe a human thing. Although the skills are not, or the tiers are not skill based, there's still a 1 in that tier name. And now they're, I don't know how to explain it correctly in English, but mostly looking forward to race with people around you with the similar pace. And if I become 6, 7, or 8 every single race and still have a really good battle with anyone who is driving in season 1, season 2 next season in the top tier, is mostly, I'm looking forward to just race alongside rather than it's only me and this DC fighting. There's so much to look forward to, like you said, to Billy, with the strategy in the full qualifying, the pressure with only have so much tires for every session, Um, so you basically have to set like a really really good lap, especially when the tiers are skilled, and you have like a Bahrain shot for the mini series for next event. It's probably really really close between the tenth of a second. It could either be you out of Q3 or Q2, or you go through. So it's really more strategy wise. You have to pay attention, and it won't be like when I now commentate tier three. Sometimes you see somebody lose in the first turn of position, and he can fight all this way back and maybe win the race. That's definitely not going to happen in season two in the top tier, because those guys are way faster, and yeah, or there must be coming out the safety car. I don't know, but that's not just going to happen. You have to be on point and give it your everything, I think. Just looking forward to the whole season, even though ghosting disabled. I really like the realism and some of the F1 games. But it also could be really disadvantage with the simulation damage and the ghosting. You having a really good race, maybe you winning the race, and a back marker hits the wall, debris is spreading out of the track, and you get a puncture. Yeah, I will be fuming behind my wheel, and probably turn it off and retire on track and get a qualifying ban. But yeah, there are some good things about the settings we are going to use, and some bad things. And maybe also the thing I'm looking forward to is that some assists are going to be disabled. I know that Brenda turned off also traction control, but I just like people driving around myself with the same assist. Uh, so it's just, yeah, more of a feeling like it's more fair in terms of I having all the assist off, and somebody else still has ABS on, because I think ABS is still the most overpowered assist in the F1 game. No lock ups whatsoever. Great exits out of corners. Only downside with the enabled ABS is that the overtaking is a little bit difficult because the car brakes for you rather than you do it by yourself. But yeah, looking forward to a new season. Me as an admin also know what we are preparing, so hopefully everybody is also enjoying that. What we're doing, going to be all kinds of fun stuff with the new financial system, the boss introduction, the boss maybe engineering throughout watching the stream, um, mid-season reviews, and maybe you even get a boss put you down a tier. Uh, Me myself are going to do track guides for TTM. In season one, we had the hot labs video just to show our viewers around the track and how it feels and look when you're behind the wheel. We're still going to use those hot labs for the live streams, but a special addition for the members for TTM is that we are going to really break down the track. Me using no line, of course, and tell you my braking points, what gear I'm using, how do the traction, or how to keep the back end. Maybe something useful for you, Josh, with the wheel, and hopefully, yeah, get the drivers to the next level and encourage them also to turn off assist. I know Hopi is also going to use the no line, so yeah, so yeah, maybe a lot. But when I start talking, I maybe talk a lot, but nee, nog niet. Ga ik zo doen.
No, it's absolutely great to hear your thoughts and stuff. I know there's quite a few people who enjoy listening to your voice. I know I sometimes get the same reaction.
What a slide! What a slide!
But no, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about your season. Well done again for winning the championship, and best of luck with season 2. I'm sure there'll be lots of success coming your way. Obviously, very quick, very consistent. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you get on with the fastest guys in TTM. But I think
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like what I said to DZ. I'll enjoy watching the battles that unfold between all of you guys. So I don't know whether I don't know who gets the better thing. You guys get to race each other and get great battles on track, but we also get to watch the action. So
Yeah, we talked about that also in the admin chat, uh, because the grid is going to be closer now, and with the simulation damage and the ghosting, hopefully the ones we picked are just as race crafted and awareness as we all think. Because when the grid is going to be closer in all tiers, you probably have also a little bit more incidents. So yeah, we are racing as there are incidents. Yeah, it's going to be good for the viewers. But yeah. It's going to be good for the viewers, Jubilee. I agree with that. Especially like, hey, tier or the top tier streaming now those are the best drivers in TTM at this point, and who can race on that day. So it's definitely going to be something to look forward to. Yes.
But yeah, I think that sort of wraps up our podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening to the Tier 2 review, kind of doing it a little bit different this week. And then also, hope you're all staying safe, obviously, uncertain times. So, I hope you're all doing well. Next week, I'm not too sure what we're going to do for a podcast. You're just going to have to keep an eye out to find out what we're going to be talking about. But I think that's it. Anyone got any final words of wisdom they'd like to impart on our listeners?
Peace.
no, not from me.
No, that's fine.
Alright then, thank you for listening. Hope you're all doing well, and we'll see you next week.